Welcome back. Right, on to our big interview of the day. They've glued themselves to trains, the M25, petrol stations, and even to furniture in court during repeated appearances in front of magistrates. Insulate Britain have provoked admiration amongst some for highlighting their cause, but outrage amongst those who say their protests are ruining ordinary people's days, costing money and putting lives at risk. Today, an offshoot of the group Money Rebellion launched another stunt at HSBC's annual general meeting. They brought the event to a halt by singing along to ABBA. Well, dressed as bankers with cigars and champagne flutes, the protesters sang their reworked version of the hit Money, Money, Money. Meanwhile, another 57 Insulate Britain protesters appeared at court today after gluing themselves to the M25 last September. Joining me tonight to talk about their tactics and their campaign, Zoe Cohen from Insulate Britain. Zoe, hi, thanks for coming on tonight.
Hi, Tom, good to meet you.
You too. Talk me through what the point was of this morning's protest at HSBC.
Well, I imagine you've done your research, haven't you? HSBC is the second largest fossil fuel funder in Europe, only second to Barclays Bank. So, if anyone watching banks with Barclays or HSBC, move your money quickly because your money is helping to kill your children.
Kill your children. Quite strong words,
well,
but I know...
It's true. It's true. Our government, together with the fossil fuel industry, the banks and much of the media, are complicit in continuing a system, fossil fuel-based system, which is going to end the livable conditions on this planet. And it's going to collapse society in the next 15 to 20 years, most likely. So yes, our government, together with the courts, the system, the banking system, the fossil fuel companies, they're all complicit in driving societal collapse.
I want to look at Insulate Britain's main demand, if you like, and it's the one for the UK government to fully fund the insulation of all social housing by 2025. That's why you call yourselves Insulate Britain, after all. That's within 3 years. How much would that cost, Zoe?
A large amount of money, Tom. Yeah, hundreds of millions, a large amount of money. But it's a huge investment. It's an investment in life, in health, and it's an investment. When you invest in insulation and retrofitting, it pays itself back at least threefold. So it is an economic investment in jobs, in health, in well-being and in carbon reduction. So it's a win-win, and we can't understand why the government hasn't been getting on with it. Well, except they're in bed with the fossil fuel companies and their corporate funders. I think that's the main reason, Tom.
Okay.
But they need to get on with the job and save lives, create jobs and reduce emissions. We've been saying it for a long time now. Can
I suggest that the reason they're not doing it is because we've got a cost of living crisis going on at the moment, and as you say, it will cost hundreds of millions, and the taxpayer is going to have to pay for that. Do we really have to do this now? The government have got their net zero climate target. In fact, they're leading the world with this target. Can you not work with them?
Your researchers need to have done a better job, don't they, really? Look, insulation and retrofitting is the most obvious thing that should have been getting on with for years and years now. And this government has been failing for 12 years, utterly failing. So more and more people, and with the cost of living crisis, millions more people are being pushed into fuel poverty right now. In the winter to come, I dread to think what's going to happen. Millions more families. So insulation and retrofitting and a national service, an emergency mobilisation of insulation and retrofitting will permanently take people out of fuel poverty. Permanently, once and for all, give people decent standard of living in nice, warm, cosy homes. Why wouldn't you do this? It reduces emissions and it creates jobs. It's just a complete no-brainer. We are heading towards societal collapse, and this government is totally failing to reduce emissions in line with the urgency of the task. We have Sir David King, the ex-chief scientific advisor to the UK government, last year said that we have 3 to 4 years to determine the future of humanity, and this government is still failing.
All right,
now,
Zoe,
Tom, could I read you a quote?
Let me get a question in. Let me get a question in here. I've allowed you a long time to speak, and I'm grateful for that. But I think while many may well agree with your aims, I think it's the tactics they might have a problem with here. So effectively, you're stopping people from getting to work, stopping mums from dropping their kids off at school. Do you not think you're running the severe risk of alienating people and actually doing the opposite, turning people off your cause?
Well, again, there's no actual evidence that's the case, Tom. There's anecdote, but there's no evidence that civil resistance and the kind of actions that Insulate Britain or Extinction Rebellion or Just Stop Oil take...
What's the evidence it's working?
There's evidence, well, for example, with Insulate Britain, the vast majority of the public, when polled, agreed with the demands. And similarly with Just Stop Oil, there's polling information that's just come out from a cross-section of people across the country that show that the majority of people agree with the demand of Just Stop Oil. And in fact, the demonstrations and the civil resistance actions have increased people's likelihood of taking climate action. So all of this nonsense people talk about, it's turning people away. The people of this country are far too sensible to be put off their desire for climate action. Most people in this country are really concerned about the climate emergency and they want the government to take action. Please, may I read you one sentence?
We haven't got much time left. I'll give you again
well,
a lot
that's
of time
right,
to talk.
we haven't got time left. That's the whole point.
All right, so we agree.
Time.
So, Zoe, I want to put one final thing to you, and here's an example about how you're putting people off. I really want to talk to you in this studio. I was really keen to have you sitting just there so you and I can have a face-to-face conversation. The last time one of your colleagues did a news interview, they glued themselves to the desk. We couldn't take that risk, and now we're having to talk like this. That is an example of why your tactics can alienate.
Well, I'm having to do this to get the truth across in your channel. I'm having to hold up signs to get my message across so that I don't get interrupted, because we are facing a collapse of society. The window for action is closing. It's code red for humanity. It can't be clearer. So I have to put signs up like this to ensure that the message gets across, because you keep focusing on tactics and not on the why we're here.
I gave you a lot of time to talk about exactly what it is your message is.
Yeah, well, Tom, you've given more time to whether who's going to buy Chelsea as a football club or all the other nonsense stories in the news. This is the end of society and the collapse of this country and the collapse of food systems. Our children will be fighting over food within the next 10 to 15 years, and you're giving more time to ridiculous stories about tennis players going to prison. Would you please focus on what's important and tell the truth?
Zoe, it's been good to talk to you. I hope you appreciate we've given you some time to at least tried. Zoe Cohen from Insulate Britain, thank you. Let's look at some world news now.